How would you like to buy a house worth $112,000 by coming up with only $7,400 cash and taking over the payments, not signing, just taking over the payments? You don't fill out a credit report, you don't fill out any applications, you don't sign any paperwork, okay? For the mortgage, you just take it over for $47,000. And you wind up with $50,000 equity. Let me tell you this story about my friend Brian. Hello my friends, this is JoeyB and welcome to JoeyB's Real Estate 101. The subject today is subject to. What that means is that it's subject to taking over an existing mortgage. Subject to. We are not signing the mortgage. We are not guaranteeing the mortgage. Here it is. It's with a student of mine. His name is Brian. He lives in Peoria, and this is his deal. Brian was, he got operated on. He was on his back from August 3rd to September 3rd. And this is what he did. He called me and said he wants to buy a house, and he watched some of our videos. He asked which one. I said subject to, and this is what he did. This is what happened. He bought a house that was worth $112,000. He knows this because the gentleman that owned the house refinanced it the year before. The appraisal was $112,000, was in all the documents, etc., etc. The situation is that the gentleman was behind on payments. He had a personal situation. His wife passed away. The guy was really sad. Sort of gave up everything, wanted to go back to where he came from and stop making payments. This is what Brian did. He met with the guy and worked out this deal. The mortgage, the existing mortgage was $47,000, okay? That was the balance on the mortgage. There were past due payments, and these past due payments, which Brian paid, were $2,300 for past due payments. Then he had to pay a lawyer, which he met through JoeyB. He's on my team. His name's Michael Conrad. They did the paperwork in 3 days. And Michael only charged him $450. But here's the critical issue here. How did Brian get the gentleman to move? It's called cash for keys. And he gave the guy $5,000. The guy was behind on payments. His credit was in jeopardy. But Brian paid him $5,000 for cash for keys. This is the acquisition cost. For $54,750, let's say $55,000. That was his cost of acquisition, including a $47,000 mortgage. Okay, then what did he do? Brian had to fix the house up. He wanted it to be livable. The house was a mess. Took it down to the drywall, tore out walls, added bedrooms, the whole bit. So what did he do? He spent $30,000 for materials and labor, but keep in mind, he did most of the work himself. So there's sweat equity in there. So he paid $30,000. His cost was $85,000. Okay? $85,000. Okay. Now it was worth $112 when he bought it. So let's take the $55 from there. So when he bought it, he had $57,000 in equity. $57,000 in equity. Then what he did is he fixed it, and he spent $30,000, so his entire cost was $85,000. Took him several months. He did the work by himself. What's it worth? We found out what it's worth because it was worth $159,500. And Brian did this by doing a competitive market analysis. He had a local broker, really knew the area, and this was his estimate. Let's say it was, let's round it to 160. It was worth $160,000. Okay? Being worth $160,000, what was the total cost? $85,000. He had $75,000 in equity when he was done doing the work. He went from $0 to $75,000 by doing the subject to strategy. If you like this, like it, share it, and subscribe. Now, hold on. I want you to see the conversation that Brian and I had, and you're going to hear his story. Thank you. Brian, go ahead. Tell us what happened.
Well, I called Joey up and we had the conversation. I wanted to buy a house for my son and me to live in and possibly flip it down the road. And I talked to him. He told me what classes to take, and I watched the seller financing, and I watched the subject twos, and we got to talking, and he told me about the ISO, the website we have to find properties. And I went through that, and I found, after I watched the classes, I found the house I wanted. I found actually 10 of them that I wanted to narrow down to one. And I went through them all, and I had a friend of mine drive me around because I couldn't walk. And we looked at the houses from the outside, and then as I was healing, I had got a brace to wear, and I wore that as I toured the house, but it took me several months to find it, working with the ISO website, and then once I found the house, I told Joey that I can't walk, I can't do anything, but what do I do now? And he got me in touch with after I negotiated a price and that, he told me to call Michael Conrad, which is a lawyer in our group. And he gave me the ins and outs of how to talk to the guy, and I also talked to Joey again about it, and he told me to watch Negotiations by Bob Schneider, which is the president of our company. And I watched that, and that helped me negotiate a price to get the guy out of his house, and he was going to either lose it, or I was going to buy it, or he was just going to give it back to the bank.
Okay, run us through the economics of it. How much you took over a mortgage?
Well, what happened was he was asking. He just was going to leave the house, and so I'd asked him what he had to do to catch it up, catch the mortgage up, and he had. What is strange about the whole process is he had the house paid off until February of the previous year.
Oh wow!
And the February of the previous year, he went and got a mortgage on the house to pay to buy whatever they wanted to spend it on, whatever, and he didn't have any money to show for it, so he couldn't do anything. He spent it all.
Okay.
So he had this mortgage now for this house that he was going to let go of the bank, and so I told him I'll take the mortgage over, and we talked about how much he owed on it. We called the bank up, the mortgage bank, and so I ended up assuming a $45,000 mortgage. And I gave him, he was $2,600 behind in his mortgage, so I caught that up. And then I gave him $5,000 to exit the house and to sign the paperwork and that. And so when it was all said and done, I paid him $7,000 to move out. Well, $7,600 is to move out, and then the house was mine. And,
okay.
And we called Michael Conrad was the key person in the whole thing, because when Joey and I got finished when I watched the videos and Joey told me to go talk to Michael told me we talked over the phone, and I didn't have to get up and go do anything except for one trip to the city, to the courthouse, to get the legal description of the name of the property. That was all he needed. And I sent him that. Within 3 days, he had the paperwork drawn up, and within 3 days, I had the guy sign it, and the house was mine.
That's it. Okay, now what did you do? Hey, wait. How did you know it was worth $112,000?
Because that's what it was appraised for that year when he refinanced
Oh,
it.
so Okay, so you got an appraisal for 112.
The appraisal for 112 when he refinanced it though, and the house was in bad shape as it was when he got the appraisal. So when I went in and I gutted it, I tore everything out and redid everything. I took all the walls, everything's plaster. I insulated the entire exterior of the house. We put new siding on, put new cabinets in, new plumbing fixtures, and we gutted it down to the bare bones. And then we built it back up from.
Fantastic. And then you just, it's worth how much?
Approximately about 159 right now.
$159,000 house, and you've got 45,000 in debt on it. And what? And you put I know you bought a couple of Home Depot and a credit card. You put your
My materials.
your materials. How much did that come out to? Like 20? You mentioned I think.
Well, a lot of it came out of pocket because I was working and I did it as I worked. So I paid cash for most of the materials. So, but I had a Discover card, and I bought all the appliances and some of the large purchases like the flooring and the drywall and real estate staples of the house. You know, like all of the lumber and all that. I used the Discover card and then the Home Depot card.
Okay, great. So it's worth 159,000 now. You've got 40. What's your mortgage payment on that $45,000 loan?
When he refinanced it, he had bad credit, so it was about
$500 a month.
$500 a month.
So you're living there now for $500 a month plus whatever. Was that just the mortgage, or was that the extra too?
Mortgage, that's escrow. Mortgage, insurance, and taxes are all included.
Okay, so for $500 a month you're paying right now. House is worth $159, and so even if you added the 15 grand a credit cards and stuff like that, you got 70,000. So you got a house with $80,000 equity.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty close to that.
That was worth it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you had to work and you had to do it. But dig this, he did this on one leg.
Yeah, right.
He got the deal put together on one leg.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, listen. Thank you very much. And now you're working on what, a second one, right?
Yeah, we're looking. I'm going to get the ISO program out again, and we're going to get in there and we're going to look for another one, and hopefully one, maybe two this year.
Fantastic. Okay. All right. Thank you. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, please like it. Don't forget to share it, and then subscribe because there's more content coming. Stay tuned.